Welcome to Wandering Jews at J-Squared Adventures. Travel far enough and you meet yourself.
We're your hosts. I'm Scott.
I'm Sorrel.
Tel Hai, a remote Jewish outpost in the Upper Galilee, March 1st, 1920. A small group of defenders led by Yosef Trumpeldor faced a deadly attack by Arab forces. Outnumbered, unyielding, their stand has been remembered by generations of Israelis as a lasting symbol of pioneering tenacity. Walk the grounds with us, encounter the stories of the defenders, trace the weathered stone walls, and feel how this moment shaped the soul of a nation. And ask, how do we relate to the heroes of the past in light of our present?
Welcome to the Finger of the Galilee, Israel's northernmost stretch, wedged between Lebanon and the Golan Heights. This narrow corridor is a place of striking contrasts. Lush green valleys meet rugged hills. Quiet kibbutzim sit beneath watchful mountains. The air carries a scent of pine, olive, and wild thyme.
But this beauty hides a deeper story. The Finger of the Galilee has always been a frontier. It's a place where borders shift, where empires once collided, and where the struggle for presence and identity has played out for over a century. Here at Tel Hai, a small outpost became the stage for one of Zionism's most powerful legends.
To understand Tel Hai, though, we must step back. Let's go back to the early 20th century. The Ottoman Empire, which ruled this land for 400 years, collapsed during World War I. In its place, European powers wasted no time in rushing to divide the spoils. The Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916 secretly carved up the Middle East between Britain and France, with little regard for the people living there.
The Galilee sat in the middle of this chaos. Was it part of French-controlled Syria or British-controlled Palestine? No one knew for sure. In 1920, the region was lawless. Arab militias, French military, and Jewish pioneers all vied for control. Tel Hai, a Jewish, tiny, farming settlement, found itself on the fault line.
And it wasn't just a border dispute, it was a battle over vision. Who would shape the future of this land, and what kinds of society would be built here?
1st of March, 1920, Arab fighters approached Tel Hai, claiming to search for French troops. The Jewish settlers, fearing an attack, called for help. Yosef Trumpeldor, a veteran soldier and Zionist leader, answered their call.
The confrontation turned violent. In the end, 8 Jews were killed, including Trumpeldor. His last words reportedly were, "It is good to die for our country." Now, whether he said it or not, that phrase has become immortalized.
The battle was small, but the impact was enormous. Tel Hai became a symbol of Jewish resistance, sacrifice, and the will to hold the land, even in the face of death.
Trumpeldor's life was as compelling as the legend that followed his death. He was a figure of striking contrasts and deep convictions. A decorated hero who lost his arm in battle, he was also a vegetarian from age 14. Influenced by Tolstoy's ideals of simplicity and ethical living, he also reportedly preferred to sleep on the floor, a habit that reflected his austere lifestyle and rejection of comfort in favor of discipline and humility.
He served in the Imperial Russian Army, particularly during the Russo-Japanese War, highly unusual for a Jew at that time, given the pervasive anti-Semitism and legal restrictions. Trumpeldor not only enlisted, he became an officer in the army of the Russian Tsar, earning the Cross of St. George for bravery. His choice to serve was a deliberate defiance of stereotypes of Jewish weakness.
And how did he see Jewish strength? For Trumpeldor, the chalutz, the pioneer, it was less about the personal ego, and it was about devoting yourself perfectly to the service of the nation. He's famed for saying the chalutz is an anonymous soldier in the army of Zion who labors with no thought of personal gain to build up the land.
During the First World War, he helped form the Zion Mule Corps, the first Jewish military unit in modern times, and maybe the first Jewish military unit since the Bar Kokhba revolt in the 2nd century CE. He believed Jews must defend themselves, build their homeland with their own hands, and he acted on that belief through his own personal example.
Trumpeldor was so much more than just a fighter. He was a thinker, a builder, and a dreamer. His death at Tel Hai at just age 39 turned him into a legend, the model of the new Jew, proud, strong, and rooted in the soil of Eretz Yisrael.
In the years following 1920, Tel Hai became a cornerstone of Zionist identity and Hebrew culture. Trumpeldor's story was embraced across the ideological spectrum. Labor Zionists, people like David Ben-Gurion and Yitzhak Rabin, saw him as the ideal pioneer, brave, modest, committed to the land. Revisionist Zionists, people like Zev Jabotinsky, Menachem Begin, admired his military courage and nationalist fire. Religious Zionists, like the Rav Kook, viewed his sacrifice as a sacred self-sacrifice.
In Israeli literature, Trumpeldor appears as a tragic hero, and in music, songs like Tel Hai evoke pride and sorrow. In art, the roaring lion statue at Kfar Giladi, which we'll talk about in a minute, captures his fierce spirit. The Tel Hai story helps shape the Israeli ethos. It's about a Jew who no longer waits for history to happen, but plays a crucial role in it.
At nearby kibbutz Kfar Giladi, a short walk from Tel Hai, an enormous statue of a roaring lion, its head pitched skyward, its jaws wide in a fierce roar, guards the upper Galilee. Sculpted in 1934 by Avraham Melnikov in a style reminiscent of the archaeological monuments of ancient Egypt and Assyria, the roaring lion marks the burial place of Trumpeldor, the defenders of Tel Hai. From this hilltop cemetery, you can look south across the Hula Valley, and on clear days towards the hills of Lebanon, a vantage point that makes plain how closely history and geography are intertwined here, how the story of Israel is about sweeping, epic tales in a beautiful but postage stamp-sized landscape.
When Israelis recall Tel Hai and Yosef Trumpeldor, that quote that has been attributed to him before his death, "It is good to die for one's country," that's one of the immediate associations. Now, whether Trumpeldor actually uttered those words, like we said, is a question of debate. But regardless, the message became a central call to generations of Israelis about the necessity of self-defense and self-sacrifice.
The quotation also became a quotation of controversy as Israeli public life matured and questions about self-defense, security, the search for peace, the price of sovereignty, all became existential questions for Israel, both in the geopolitical and strategic realms, but also nearly every Israeli home and around every Israeli dinner table.
And after the Yom Kippur War, Israeli society began to question its founding myths. The image of the fearless pioneer gave way to more complex portraits of trauma, doubt, and moral struggle.
On August 6, 2006, a Hezbollah rocket from nearby Lebanon struck a group of Israeli reserve soldiers near the cemetery in Kfar Giladi, next to the roaring lion. 12 were killed instantly. The soldiers had no access to a protected shelter at the time of the attack.
They actually were waiting for deployment orders in yet another round of fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. This incident became one of the deadliest single rocket strikes during the Second Lebanon War, highlighting vulnerabilities in frontline defense. It also became the subject of an ongoing debate about how to best defend, strengthen, and sustain the lives of Israelis living in the towns, villages, moshavim, and kibbutzim adjacent to the Israeli-Lebanese border and the northern Galilee.
Tel Hai Day is marked each year on the Hebrew date of the battle, the 11th of Adar. For many, many years, Tel Hai Day includes marches and ceremonies, school groups, labor unions, youth movements, even up until today. And in 2025, Tel Hai Day was marked with over 1,500 students and young cadets participating in the ceremonies, in the marches, and in the discussions regarding the meanings of Tel Hai then and now. The site continues to serve as a focal point for national memory and for youth education. And at the same time, if you stopped an Israeli in the street on the 11th of Adar and asked them, what's this day and why is it important, most would likely be ignorant.
And of course, as it tends to happen, meanings have shifted. For some, Tel Hai remains a sacred story of sacrifice. For others, it's a stark reminder of the cost of borders, the fragility of peace, and the need to rethink old narratives.
Scholars like Yael Zerubbabel have explored how Tel Hai functions as a national myth. National myth, we mean the stories that communities share to explain who they are, what they value, and what are their dreams for the future. The story dramatizes themes of collective death and rebirth, and helped shape this image of the new Jew, the Israeli, strong, secular, and rooted in the land. It was especially powerful during the Yishuv period and the early years of the state.
And yet, interpretations have shifted. Some critique its romanticization and its role in shaping militaristic narratives. Others, on the other hand, like we said, see it as a unifying symbol of resilience and identity. In modern Israel, Tel Hai resonates differently across generations. Its core themes, defense, belonging, and sacrifice, remain deeply relevant, however, especially in the context of Israel's ongoing October 7th war.
At Kfar Giladi, we talked about a monumental statue of a roaring lion watching over the Upper Galilee. Its mouth open in defiance, its body tensed as a silent sentinel. More than a memorial, it's a message about the connection to the land, about honoring the fallen, and about the ongoing need to remain poised in vigilance.
Standing at Tel Hai, looking out over the Hula Valley, the Golan Heights, and Mount Hermon, you might ask yourself questions about your country where you live, about America. What can Tel Hai teach us about balancing courage and caution? How do the stories we tell about our founders shape America's identity? And how should we reflect in them today? What does Tel Hai make us think about unity and division in America?
When we talk about these sites, and again, it could be Tel Hai in Israel, or a site like Masada. It could be in America a place like the Alamo, or Plymouth Rock, or recent debates about the statues of Confederate generals dotting southern cities in memory of the terrible struggle of the Civil War. And the question of what we do with these monuments, are they still meaningful? What meaning do we make of them? Do they still deserve to stand, both physically and in our memories, is a question that's relevant regardless if you live in Jerusalem or in San Francisco. And now, something for the road. A tip, a recommendation to help you make every journey your own.
Hello, I am Hillary Mankiewicz. I'm a tour educator with J Squared for, going on a long time now. The past few years have made me lose track of time altogether. And I'm bringing to you a little gem, a little something for the road in connection with talking about the North. And one of the things that I've missed more than anything in the last 2 years, really, has been the ability to access the north of the country. And so when I was asked to think about a song that I wanted to share with everyone today, I thought of lots, but one that popped up more than any of the others, and that is a song by the band Shote Nouveau, the Fools of Prophecy, as we can roughly translate that into English. And the song is Kol Galgal. And as a band, they were really huge in the late 90s and early 2000s. I think they broke up around 2007, which was devastating for people who, like me, really, sometimes the music hits you at the right age and helps you sort of connect in ways. And sometimes it's the lyrics that help you understand something about life or something about a place or a person. And I think when I first encountered this song, the lyrics were a little bit above my head, both because they originate from the Zohar, the Kabbalistic text. And what do I know from Kabbalah? I was not yet of age or of gender, or I didn't have the learning under my belt to delve into the mystical traditions. But there's something about this song that even if you don't really understand the words, connect people. And the song was written in, some might say, a bit of a mystical fashion. And one of the members of the band, the youngest member of the band, he had gotten on a journey and exploring and getting closer to religion and specifically Kabbalah and starting to explore that. And when Avram Tal was just sort of reading a text one night, he stumbled upon what became the words for the lyrics for the song. So the lyrics they're a Hebrew translation of what was originally written in Aramaic. And I'll read just the English translation for all our listeners out there. The sound of the circle rolls upwards from below, obscure chariots going and revolving. The sound of melodies goes up and down. It goes and wanders in the world. The voice of a shofar extends through the depths of the stairs, and the circle spins around. That's the sound of a circle going up and down. And even if you do understand those words, each individually, when we put them all together, even in a language that you're familiar with, they're a little obscure. But the melody that in Avram Tal's explanation just sort of came through him in one of those moments that songwriters often talk about, and in this case, maybe in a very mystical way, that was the beginning of this song. And one of the things that this band does that I think at that point in my life that I really connected to, I was, in my late 20s and a little bit searching religiously and spiritually. And what they did in the Israeli music scene that was unique was to really bring spirituality infuse it with pop music. And they weren't the only ones doing it. There was a bit of a scene at the time, but they made it accessible and popular. And popular not as in cool popular as in accessible to the masses. And as one does at certain points in your life when you find yourself searching and you stumble upon a piece of music, whether you understand the words or not, but somehow conveys that same thing. But the lyrics are talking about the sort of dynamic, constant movements of spiritual energy and consciousness in the universe, and all of them that might seem like quite lofty ideas. But the members of the band will describe how now, they've been broken up for years and they each independently play and often are requested to play the song. And whether they're here in Israel or traveling abroad, especially when they're traveling abroad to a non-Hebrew speaking audience, they'll say every time they play this song, they look out into the audience and a handful of people are just crying. They don't understand anything of what they're saying, but they're touched by the music. So that's the song I wanted to bring to you all today. It's a song that I think of specifically tied to the north, not only because the band members themselves are from Metula, our furthest northernmost point in the finger of the Galilee, or the Galilee panhandle up north, but also because of the connection with mysticism to the city of Tzfat. If you're lucky enough to travel to Tzfat with my colleague Lior, you'll find yourself serenaded by her and her guitar in the alleyways of Tzfat with this song. We visit a place like Tzfat and we talk about Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism, and we can give it lip service, but it's often hard to connect to and touch. And I find that this song is one way or one conduit that you can maybe access it. So I want to share it with you today. So the next time you're in the Galilee and traveling around, ask your tour guide to put this song on the bus and you can all enjoy it together. But I'll encourage you even before then to go into Spotify and just type in Kol Gagal, the sound of the wheel, or KOL, and you'll see how many times this song has been covered by people from all over the world. There is a universality to it, and I hope you enjoy it. So until we see you next time, I wish you well. Litrop.
Thanks for listening. Dive deeper into the world of travel on our J Squared Adventures website. That's j2adventures.com. And stay in the loop with our latest adventures on all our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, all under J2 Adventures. And if you enjoyed hanging out with us, don't forget to leave us a comment, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, travel safely and keep wondering. I'm Sorrel.
I'm Scott.
See you soon with the Wandering Jews.